think we're done talking about Armageddon, correct? Right? We're correct.
Armageddon
right?
it.
Honestly, I just, as an Easter egg, hope that he's one of the variants in Loki, like that version of Owen Wilson from Armageddon. Him and Ben Affleck show up, and they actually are Han Solo and Chewbacca from Star Wars, and they're just like, blows my mind if that was the case.
I was explaining to John before that Noah and I, my son and I had watched The Martian, and he quite enjoyed it. So I was like, he's seen Interstellar, which he likes. So I was like, let's throw in Armageddon. It's it is what it is. And we're watching it. We split up over 2 nights, and I'm like, so what do you think after like the first night? And he's like, I don't know. It looks really like the special effects are pretty cheap, and honestly, that's not how space travel works. And I'm like, this kid, yep, you're right. You're 12.
Did he like at least the Aerosmith song?
I explained
why this #1 hit that stayed on the chart for I don't know how long.
No, and he's also doesn't understand the argument over animal crackers and cookies. He doesn't understand why anybody would call the camel cracker a llama.
Well,
so
you could get him on Star Trek next, the original motion picture, and then get him on that bad boy next.
I don't think so, man. I tried showing him the JJ.
Let's wrap up Armageddon.
Oh, hey, are we live? Are we live? What's happening?
You nerd. All right, we're not talking about Armageddon anymore. Welcome, folks.
What? I thought it was Armageddon podcast.
No, this is not.
We watched the wrong.
We're done.
Not Armageddon.
I got nothing.
Podcast.
What do you mean? I got all these facts about Armageddon.
You got nothing.
Oh,
Stu, we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Gunpowder Milkshake. Sorry.
Whoa.
Anyways, well, welcome everybody. I see a whole bunch of people in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us on a Monday night. We're gonna have some fun. We're gonna talk Gunpowder Milkshake. We're gonna hit you with some news, some new releases, and we are hopefully gonna have time to just get to the whole discussion of movies that are going direct to streaming. Are they the new direct-to-video market or whatever we want to call it? I'm going to roll the intro just so other people can have time to join us.
You have an intro again?
It's that same intro. Let's see how it looks.
Hit me with your best shot, John.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right, so I'm gonna keep working on that. Don't worry, it's all right. Right?
I like it. There you go.
It gets his buy.
Great.
Yes.
That was actually the Michael Bay of introductions. The camera was spinning around.
All I need are 8-bit versions of you and Rob in the intro. 8-bit versions of your little sprites jumping and dancing. Then I'm totally on board.
In all fairness, every Contra game, you can just pick me out. Like it doesn't. There you go, Contra, Super Contra. Just it's fine. I mean, we all.
Yeah. 100%. Rob is represented quite well in the 8-bit era.
Same depth. It's depth of character. Don't worry.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And he's got the hair. He's got the perfect hair to match it as well. So welcome, folks. I'm gonna hit you with a few new releases. I'm gonna keep it short though. We do post it on our social media, so I'm just gonna add it to the stream here so you guys can see it. We make a little graphic. It's kind of fancy, so it goes to our Instagram and Facebook and has all our new comic and kind of comic related releases, and we also get new things throughout the week. So if you're following us on social media, you'll kind of get those updates. There's a whole bunch of good stuff coming out. Nightwing, which is featured in the picture here, the new Nightwing 81, where they started this new story arc with Tom Taylor, has been a phenomenal run, and they now have the second print coming out this week, so you'll be able to catch up on that. And the brand new, the second print for 81, 79 is where it started, and there's new printings of that available as well. And the new issue 82 is dropping, and you can see on the title there, it says Mystery of Melinda Zuko, who is the daughter of Tony Zuko, the guy who killed Dick Grayson's parents. So it's a really cool story arc that they're doing, and he will be, the same writer is going to be doing the Son of Superman book coming out very soon, which Andre and I have actually read the preview for it, and it is actually really good. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to some good Superman books. And that's it. You can go check that out, and if you follow us on the socials, like I said, you'll get all those updates. So let's go with Rob in the news, and then we're going to get to watermelon sugar milkshake. Let's go.
How many puns do you think you're going to try to throw out on this?
That's not a pun, I don't think. I think that's just getting the name wrong.
That's
dad
just
joke.
A really
okay, I see.
That's a Rob, I don't know if you know this. That's a dad joke. I don't know if you recognize.
Exactly. Yes.
Hey, respect the dad joke. That's definitely not one of them. Hey guys, so listen. As our viewers may or may not know, or those who are listening, we did a review of Loki, episode 6 recently on the Heroes World podcast. You can definitely check us out. Andre, Stu, John, and myself discussed that. But they have announced that, obviously, as we saw at the ending of Loki season 2, has been confirmed. But what's not changing, what is changing is Kate Herron, the director, the showrunner of season 1, has said, smell you later, and off she goes to a different timeline. She will not be doing the season 2. The reason she says that, she's like, listen, I've told the story I wanted to tell. I've done what I wanted to do. I'm off to do other things. I have other projects that I'm working on, things that will be announced down the road. So, surprised. Are you guys kind of surprised that she's one and done and out the door? Or is this, standard fare for TV shows, Marvel properties? What do you think?
It makes a lot of sense that she's leaving the show in terms of just she imprinted the vision. She has a look and aesthetic that fits the show, and the next person just parachutes in and just follows suit. So she kind of laid the groundwork, just like how Ryan Coogler laid the foundation for Black Panther. If he ever was to leave, then you have everything you need to do in terms of the character, the aesthetic, and I think Marvel, and in terms of also, we talked about this too. We don't even know how long it's going to be before season 2 comes out. So it could be 2 years. And she's like, I need to know what I have to do next. And this is probably going to be 2 years from now. So I'll do something else.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I can't believe smell you later became vernacular. But yeah, go ahead.
All right. So,
let's talk about this new noob. That guy is just on fire right now from Twitch, John. Maybe you can, swing some dad jokes with the guys from Twitch.
So, hey, we're going to talk, shifting gears to Andre's favorite property, and that would be Teletubbies. No, I'm just kidding. Star Wars. So news came out just a few days ago that they're in the middle of shooting the Obi-Wan Kenobi series with Ewan McGregor, which Andre is super stoked about. He's hoping he gets the rat tail back. But it looks like they've cast a very young Princess Leia. Her name is Vivian Lyra Blair. Now, normally we would throw up photos of individuals in the projects. I'm not comfortable putting up a photo of a 6-year-old girl, to be very honest with you. So we're not going to do that. But they are putting they've cast this very young Princess Leia. Apparently, we know that part of the plot will be Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of overseeing and ensuring that Luke on Tatooine with Uncle Owen and Aunt Faru is safe. But interestingly, that they would cast a young Princess Leia. What are your thoughts on that, John?
She was when you posted the link, I'm like, oh, cool, young Princess Leia. And then I clicked the thing, and it's like a picture of a little girl. I was like, does this really matter? So I don't know, Good for her, I guess. You think that she's going to get a juicy part, or it's just going to be like a walk on?
I feel like it's going to be visions to understand the fact that Obi-Wan knew that there was always two, and he can use the Force to maybe figure out that there's two of them, and it'll just be her in a garden or hanging out. So I can't imagine it's going to be much more than a very glorified cameo.
Yeah, just interesting.
Show up with guns, tapping guys in the ass.
Yeah, all of a sudden she's Hit Girl from Kick-Ass, and she's rolling around.
And she gets Men in Black, and she gets her.
That's right.
At the end of it, get brain wiped. That's what's gonna happen.
Jimmy Smits comes back and he picks her up and runs back to Alderaan. Yeah. Moving on. Speaking of casting of individuals, word came out yesterday, I believe it was, that Batgirl is setting up some screen tests for a bunch of actresses that John knows all of them and what they've all been involved. John, can you rhyme off the names of the individuals in the photo you're going to be pulling up in a second? Nope, not putting the photo up. Okay, there they are. This is actually the best view. There's no John. I'm not really sure who any of these actresses are. I do know it's Isabella Merced, a Zoe Dutch, Leslie Grace, and a Haley Lou Richardson. I don't really know what they have done previous to this, but they are currently, the rumor is, screen testing right now in Burbank for HBO Max's Batgirl movie. Thoughts? Are you thinking, are you surprised that they're going with a Caucasian actress, given that Matt Reeves' Batman has got Commissioner Gordon is being played by Stu. Help me out.
I'm not familiar with Stu. Help me out.
You mean good? The guy from Bond?
Yes. Yeah, Felix Leiter from James Bond and Westworld.
Yes. And then the Watcher,
Jeffrey, whatever. Anyways, are you guys surprised that he's not Caucasian? So, are you surprised that they are looking to cast a Caucasian actress for this role?
I'm sure they'll explain it.
Jeffrey Wright, thanks.
Jeffrey Wright.
Thank you, Jeffrey Wright.
At the end of the day, for HBO and what they're doing, the secret is really they're looking for a lot of actresses or actors with a large social media following. So this is not a surprise that the 4 actresses that you named probably have a good sense of a community behind them, either on one of their social platforms. So that's kind of what they need right now to do the DC stuff. It's not the Marvel machine where, frankly, you can put anyone in a Marvel film and you're good to go. You still have to build up that credibility in DC, and you have to bring in actresses that people know something about. So yeah, like the fact that Marvel can just pick a bunch of unknowns every time. They're like, we'll just pick someone that's anyone's ever heard of, right? And then they're just rolling it out. So outside of Oscar winners, so it's either Oscar winners or nobodies, and that's what Marvel's doing, and DC's kind of doing the right thing by picking the right actress that can elevate the product. Because frankly, we discussed it numerous times. There's no reason to watch any DC movies. There's no reason to watch anything unless you want to, because it's not connected.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. John, thoughts, or are you too busy with Spyro the Dragon? You're good.
Puff the Magic Dragon, Rob. Come on.
Hey, that's all about weed, man. We're not going to do that in the show. I already smoked mine earlier.
Like in the comments, I'm not familiar with any of those actresses. So hopefully they'll do a good job. I think Stu is right. Yeah, you do have to pick someone that's kind of social media savvy right now, like Javicia, who does Batwoman. Is a really good. She's in there. She's interacting with her fans. She's interacting with the other cast and all that kind of stuff. And that's your best source for news about the show. They're showing you behind the scenes, stunt prep, all this kind of stuff. I don't know if the Batman, the Batwing costume was revealed there or whatever. But yeah.
All right, cool.
We know someone's excited.
Yeah, also came out yesterday was we finally got more information on Blade, the movie starring Mahershala Ali that is slowly going into production. They finally nailed down a director. It's a Bassam Tariq, has been tapped by Marvel to be the director. Apparently, he directed a film with Riz Ahmed called Mogul Mowgli. Mogul Mowgli. Mowgli as in
is it this
from
picture?
From the Jungle Book Mowgli, but that's the director, and obviously Mahershala Ali is next to him. So this is again, and Marvel has done this. Stu was just talking about how they cast certain people. They also sometimes pick a lot of directors who maybe only have 1 or 2 movies under their belt, not even hits. Sometimes indie movies that just have generated a lot of buzz. They like the way it was shot, the way the story was told, and so it looks like they've tapped this individual to go ahead and direct it. Stacey Osei Kuffour is penning the script as we speak. So we talked about this a few months ago when they announced her as the writer. We're not going to see this movie until 2024, maybe 25. Like it's a fair ways away, but the machine is rolling along. And finally, I know today Stu he took a glass and he raised it in rejoice of the news that Kevin Smith is continuing his Clerks movie with Clerks 3. It was picked up by Lionsgate for worldwide distribution. He's actually in Red Bank, New Jersey right now, scouting, doing pre-production. They're continuing the adventures of Randall and Dante from the Quick Stop. And in this, he actually had written a Clerks 3 script a number of years ago. Then, as you may or may not have heard, if you're a Kevin Smith fan, he talked about it all the time. He ended up having a heart attack. So he rewrote the entire script, and it has Randall has a heart attack and starts to take stock of his life, essentially pissing it away at the Quick Stop, and wonders, what legacy has he left behind, and starts thinking maybe I should shoot a movie about my life at Quick Stop. So this is obviously a situation of art imitating life. But thoughts, guys, on Clerks 3? Are you happy to see Kevin Smith revisiting his opus almost 30 years after the initial release in 1994?
You're going to have to go to Stu. I have not seen Clerks.
Oh boy.
You've never seen Clerks?
Wow.
I've never seen it. And everyone just would just berate me, like be like, "Oh, you got to watch Clerks." It's like you like what you guys are doing right now and stuff like that. And then I go to fire it up, and I think it's in black and white.
It is.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah.
Yes.
So not really my jam, but one day I will have to sit down and watch it.
Wow. I think at the end of the day, Kevin Smith is kind of the originator of galvanizing a community behind him. Whether it's his podcasting network, whether it's his properties, whether it's Mallrats, he was always a quirky and unique director in terms of a lot of his stuff he did was he has all openly admitted he's not the best producer, director, or writer, but what he makes up for is gumption, and he really just kind of does his own thing. He just like many of the other great directors, he casts the same people over and over and kind of builds that unique kind of perspective. It's to him, it's very harsh in terms of language and different things. It at the end of the day, I'm kind of excited to see this movie. I'm more excited to see Mallrats. I was super excited to watch Silent Bob and Jay Strike Back. The Ben Affleck cameo really was made me tear up a bit about the end. So I'm just happy that he's friends with Ben Affleck again, and the whole story about him reaching out to him just makes me so much joy inside that he was able to reconnect with his old buddy Batman. So I don't know if people know that story, but Rob, you should share it if not. But it's a great one.
Yeah, maybe we'll do it another time. Maybe we'll do a little bit of a Kevin Smith retrospective of some of his movies. Because I will say that you're right, Stu. He admits he's not the greatest director in the world by far, but he landed at the right time. You got to remember, 1994. He was at the beginning of Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, Kevin Smith, Paul Thomas Anderson, like the start of cinema. That was a focal shift, much like how grunge music was a focal shift of the music genre. They kind of helped define the cinema going forward. And yeah, he's crude and crass, and he speaks a lot like me when we're not on the air.
Is Clerks his best movie? Is that considered his best movie? Because I only experienced Chasing Amy and freaking Geely or something. He did Geely, right?
I personally love I personally
Jersey
love
Girl.
Mallrats the most.
Jersey Girl. That was it.
That's the movie that hits me the most. But like Rob said, him and Robert Rodriguez, his whole book Rebel Without a Crew, galvanized a nation of people to basically produce and film stuff on their own. And really, what they did on their own is what students and people are doing now with the you can film a whole movie on your iPhone. That type of ingenuity and the way that they planned things before is finally in full fruition now in the year of our Lord 2021. Anyone now can get an SLR camera and start filming a movie, and they all did it the same thing, except for they had to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars, and now you can do it with basically way less. But it is something that they started, and since then it's all the Sundance darlings where they put this movie and people were bidding off the wall for them. And now it's funny because we'll segue later about that. Is a lot of this stuff is now ending up on streaming because that's what it is. Streaming service.
Well, and you know what, people, I think I think there's a lot of people who just don't like Kevin Smith for whatever reason. Maybe they find his stuff to be too schlocky or whatever. I will say this, and Stu, you said it right off the top, talking about this. This man has not only he's financed a lot of his own movies, but he's also developed this massive podcast network way before we started having podcast networks, like Earwolf and so on and so forth. So, his Smodcast, was a leading, entity in the podcast world. And let's not forget, he actually started the multiverse with his, with the New Jersey. He had a special name for it. I can't come off the top of my head right now, but
Skewiverse.
The Skewiverse. Thank you. The Skewiverse. Yeah. So, you know what? Big fan of Kevin Smith. And again, maybe one day down the road, we'll look at some of his movies and do a retrospective. Because I do think if you are a fan of movies, then you can go back to 1994, and I think Clerks holds up for you just as much as it did then. So definitely a big fan. So yeah, that's what I got for you. I'm happy. Clerks 3, Blade, Batgirl, whatever. Star Wars. I know that Andre's really excited about that one. He's got a one Kenobi doll. He's already doing the posing with the Hot Toys figure, and now we're good to go. So let's get into it, John.
I was just
All
trying
right.
to see if John could name a movie that any one of those people from Batgirl was in. If you could name one movie that any of those
Wait,
actresses are
can you
in.
name one of the actresses? How's that?
No.
Any. If you can name any movie that one of them are in, then I'll give you a special prize.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if
I
you
don't
name-
know if anyone can. So if anyone is familiar with any of those young ladies that we put up, please drop some, some work of theirs that we should check out.
I only know of one,
Yeah.
and I saw her on a Netflix made-for-TV movie as well. So
Oh boy.
that was pretty much it. But,
was it this movie? Was it Gunpowder Milkshake? No.
No, Zoe Deutsch was in the movie called The Setup with Taye Diggs and Lucy Liu. That was their movie. It's on Netflix. It's a typical. You've seen the trailer, John.
I think I'm trying to think. I might have
probably watched it.
I might have watched it because I am a big fan of Taye Diggs
and Lucy Liu. So you would be on top of it. It was two executive assistants that have horrible bosses, and then they decide, what we could do? We could get them hooked up, and then we get more time to ourselves.
I totally saw that.
I know you did.
Or most of it. I saw most of it. But anyways, let's it might come up later when we start talking about our favorite direct-to-streaming videos, but I don't know if Stu's going to drop that one or not. So we are here to talk about Gunpowder Milkshake. Just came out on July 14th on Netflix, and I believe in select theaters. I've got a dragon behind me, so please watch out for.
I don't know what type of drugs you smoke. There's no dragon that we see, John.
There's nothing. You see nothing.
He's from Westeros, yo. You got to be careful. You got to speak High Valerian.
Yeah. Okay. See you later, sweetie. I'll find you after. All right. So we know the movie cost about 30 mil, which puts it in the range of a lot of our favorites, John Wick, and even I wanted to throw in the Replacement Killers. We're all in this kind of like range, so we have a little bit of a comparison we can throw it to. I did grab the Rotten Tomatoes score, guys, so I do want to ask you guys what you guys would rate this movie. So we're going to keep it spoiler free in case someone is here and hasn't watched it, and maybe based on our preliminary rating, maybe they want to go watch it before they continue. So Rotten Tomatoes, always take it with a grain of salt, but 67% from the critics, 51% from the audience. I feel like this is pretty close to how I feel. But let's go to Rob first. We'll let you go first, Rob. How are you feeling about this movie out of 10?
Out of 10? Yeah, I'd probably give it a 6.5. I liked it. I had some issues, but I give it a solid 6.5.
6.5 is considered a movie you like? Well, anyways, Stu, what do you?
Hey, listen, as a friend, I give you a 6. So, come on.
Thank you.
Right?
You've established that you like 6s.
Out of 7. I also like 9s, John.
All right.
I'm gonna give it a solid 5.
5. Yeah. So Jonathan, you in the comments gave it a 5.
It's
some people are giving it 4 out of 10, a little lower on the scale.
I agree. Again, Scott and Gordon, I was initially thinking 4, but as I think back to the movie, there were some beautifully shot set pieces that looked really cool. So I'll give it a little bit of bump just to get it to the 5. But it's not anything outside of that. It's
It seems like most of the people joining us in the chat today, it's in the mid range right there, and we're going to dive more into it. I think there is a group of people that it will hit with, but not the general populace. Some people I think will really dig into it and kind of get into it. And I just want to throw out something else a little bit different. So, do we recommend this movie? And I'm going to throw out some other things that are available right now in July, and see if you would recommend any of those things over this. So I'm going to throw out the choices. If anyone knows any other choices that we should put on the board, or if you guys think of anything in your head, but the Fear Street trilogy also did drop on Netflix. That's 3 horror, redone horror movies.
Watched it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they did, all 3 of them are available now as of July 16th. The Tomorrow War, which we did a review, that came out very early July. Another one is Forever Purge. I believe it's theaters only. I don't know how it's available over here now. That came out early July. Black Widow, which we just saw last week. And then the latest release just this week is Space Jam: A New Legacy. So out of any of those, are you going to recommend Gunpowder Milkshake over them. So
Nope.
let's go. Stu's already answering. Rob, would you recommend Gunpowder Milkshake over any of these, or do you recommend something from this list that I kind of like threw out there?
Well, I think it's a bizarre question you've asked because I haven't seen the Fear Street trilogy, any of them yet.
Yeah. Just a preliminary.
I've surprisingly seen so many of John's recommendations, so I can tell you already. I'm like,
listen. I don't think it's better than the Tomorrow War. I don't think it's better than Black Widow. I probably would my best. It's probably better than Space Jam. But that being said, I listen. It's on Netflix. It's not costing you anything. If you have a Netflix membership,
but Rob, time is precious.
Yes, it is.
What
I've always
do you choose with your precious time? Do you recommend any of these other choices?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Over this, easily.
Sure. If you only have 2 hours, then yes, I would.
Yeah. Which one in particular? Do you have one in particular that you would go to?
Well, Black Widow. If you only have 2 hours, you're going to miss the last 20 minutes of Black Widow. So I'm going to have to say Tomorrow War.
All right, Stu. Do you have something other than Black Widow you would recommend before watching this?
Problem, because when you mentioned Fear Street, it's a trilogy, and it is. I enjoyed watching Fear Street as it's right in my wheelhouse. Fear Street Part 1, 1994, is like the sweet spot for me because it's like the mall, the music, everything in it speaks volumes to me growing up in a mall in that time period. So, if I had to pick one. But bear in mind, Fear Street is a trilogy, so you just can't watch one of them only. So I think that's the better if you had to invest time knowing that there are 2 additional movies. It's a much more fun adventure.
Yeah, so you would recommend any one of those to jump into. Do you have to watch them in order, just so I know?
Fear Street?
Yeah.
100%. You cannot watch them out of order.
I wasn't sure if there were 3 separate movies. I haven't followed it, but upon realizing that it was out and it's all 3 are done now, I did consider, maybe I should have watched this instead. But, the trailer for this movie was cut together very well. In the comments, we got a bunch of people. Scott jumps in with Fear Street. Let's see. I think someone else said, Sarah even jumped in with Fear Street. So Fear Street, pretty popular. Fraser said Tomorrow War.
There's a Canadian in it too. So the main character is from Toronto. So again,
Lewis says Tomorrow War. So this we might say, hey, you know what? When you're done watching, some of these other things, then maybe you might want to check this out and see if it's up in your wheelhouse.
It's such a hard movie. It's just. I would just fast forward through most of this movie and just watch 2 set pieces. Like that's the movie that this is right now.
Okay, so we'll get into it. So long story short, generally in this chat and us 3, we're not really recommending this over some of your other options. I think Rob is giving it an overall positive review though, so he's saying it is worth your time when you get to it. It's kind of a bonkers question, but I figured we have so many options now that it's worth stacking it up against those options. So let's go on after that. So let's talk a little bit of the movie, and our feelings are going to kind of come out as we talk about it. Let's talk about the cast. So do you guys want to talk about Karen Gillan first as the lead actress in this, the main action star? And everyone in the comments, you can drop down any of your favorite cast that was maybe not Karen. So anyone else you liked in this movie, so we can kind of talk about them. Rob, how did you feel about Nebula? Or the dance fighter from Jumanji, whatever, like Karen Gillan in this.
Listen, I thought she was fine. I actually quite like Karen Gillan. I know that Stu would probably be with me. We probably first were introduced to her with Doctor Who, with Matt Smith's run. So I was always I always quite enjoyed her. When I saw that, when she was first announced for Guardians as Nebula, I was like, oh my god, that's amazing, right? Because I think she definitely has a lot of talent. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to try to stick to your question. I quite enjoyed her in this movie. I found that all of the actresses in this movie, I thought they did well. I quite, even though they might have been a little bit 2-dimensional, especially the librarians, because you don't really get to spend much time with them. This really is Karen Gillan doing the transporter, right? Like, it's just really her and young Chloe Coleman from My Spy with Dave Bautista.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, with Drax.
Drax the Destroyer. Stu, how do you feel about Karen in this role, stepping into the main action star of a potential franchise. We'll talk about that later.
She was miscast.
Mhm.
I think it didn't pull to her strength. I think from her Scottish accent was just seeping out throughout this movie. Like if Ewan McGregor shown up and started talking to her, I think she just would have reverted back to a regular Scottish accent, and it would have been basically her, David Tennant, and him would just go full out Scotsman on us, and it would just turn into like some sort of weird thing.
Right.
She's a great actress when she's put in the right situation. Nebula is the right situation for her. She can kind of have this, she has this accent where it's not pure American. She can kind of straddle the line where Nebula's an alien, so whatever accent she wants to do, it's fine.
Yeah.
But when she's trying to be, it's weird because the movie doesn't take place in America. Why does she even have to be American? Why is this accent even a thing? She grew up in London or Germany? It was very unclear where she grew up. So I was very confused as to why she wasn't just Scottish or British or whatever the language it is anyways. Because I was like, what are you doing? Wouldn't you grow up with the language that you would hear? So that was weird. And also I think that you really tell the difference between someone who's classically trained in martial arts and someone who is not. And she is not classically trained in any type of gun, hand-to-hand combat, anything. And it was as clear and evident in that bowling scene, which was shot beautifully. And I gave the 1 point because the lights and everything, it was just beautiful to watch. It was very Bond, Skyfall-esque. But when she was fighting and moving around, it literally just looked like she was hitting her marks and dancing. She's like, moving around. And she just didn't seem... And we're spoiled because we watch Keanu or we watch some of the other action stars who know kind of also how to move their arms at a certain way. And she's doing it, but it's not the level of flow that I want to see someone who is apparently a hand-to-hand, warrior fighter.
But you know what though, Stu? I think she's tall. Like as an actress, she's very tall. And the one thing I did notice about that, especially the bowling alley fight scene, I agree with you. It was good. I think is this on her or is it on the stunt choreography team? Because
I think you can clearly tell this is a victim of filming during COVID, and maybe they only had access to a handful of stunt performers and choreographers and people on set, so they couldn't do really dangerous stuff. You can clearly tell when it cuts to a very experienced stunt woman. I think a couple of the leg grabs, like when she jumped up on and did kind of like the Black Widow move and things like that. And she does look good. Gordon mentioned Ruby Roundhouse, and in her other movies, she does look really good doing it. So it is. I feel like it's not really on her. It's on the way they kind of put it together. And you can tell, like Stu's mentioning this natural ability. You can tell even just in Michelle Yeoh, the small parts that they're given, the way that she moves, you can tell that she has experience in this realm, and perhaps because of a lack of a stunt team, she's used to doing her stunts herself. So she was probably right at home, and some of the actresses unfortunately didn't get the kind of like the props. You don't want these actresses and actors doing dangerous things if that's not their thing, right? So
I feel like you could find different ways to get around it.
But that's not her fault though.
No. What other movies do, and you'll see it in some. They do, they zoom in really close, and it becomes really fast. Like the first Bourne Identity, you get in really really close, and you can kind of everything becomes like a blur. So they did want a certain style. So I think that's. I think she was okay. I first know her from a TV show called Selfie, Stu. I don't know if you remember with John Cho.
I do, with John Cho, yes.
And I really actually quite like that show, and unfortunately didn't make it past season 1. So if you guys want to go and rewatch kind of like a rom-com in TV format,
based on My Fair Lady. Yeah. So yeah.
Oh, is that what? Okay, yeah. It was a girl who's very self-involved, and it kind of I guess changes to things. So let's talk about the rest of the cast. So a lot of mention in the comments. Everybody loves Michelle Yeoh. Pretty easy. Rob, you kind of touched on a little bit that you like overall everyone kind of in the cast, and I do. I like all these faces. I like all these actors and actresses. No, thanks. and even Lita Headley, who shows up like half. I'm surprised she didn't show up till like halfway through the movie. She comes back and she's in her native accent, like you mentioned before. So, did you like anyone else in the cast?
I thought Carla Gugino did a good job. I always like seeing her on screen.
She's the best.
And so listen, I'm just gonna go right out and jump to it, John. Is that what this film does with the females in the cast. I think it does a bit of a disservice to the overall librarians. You don't get a lot. I would love to see a backstory movie on theirs. I thought Angela Bassett was probably the worst out of all the librarians. Her delivery on some of those lines, I felt like I was watching like a high school play, the way she was delivering it. But they were never given adversaries to elevate them, right? Like, I feel like when you're acting along other people, you know, the people you're acting with are supposed to help elevate you. You elevate each other. You know, aside from Paul Giamatti, there is no male. There's nobody else that as an adversary. They're fighting a whole bunch of guys, but there's not nobody, whether it's guys or girls. There's no one villain that made you want to, you know, either kick the shit out of that person or were.
There was a guy with the hair. There was a guy with the hair.
Yeah, okay, sure. So he's rocking.
Basically gets to kill one of them, I guess.
Yeah, right. But aside, but we don't know who this. It was just a henchman. Like, they all should have just worn henchman T-shirts, like if they were in the Batman *66 TV show. There was not one person that was really like. And at the end, the guy who was the main bad guy, nobody, who the hell, that guy was some dude in Game of Thrones for 3 episodes and he was gone. Like, it doesn't make a difference. So I kind of felt like, I'm very happy to see a movie where women were there and kicking ass and doing everything else. I just felt like they got kind of shortchanged because they didn't get to have an adversary to make it equal for them to elevate what their lines and their story, right? So,
yeah, Stu, do you feel a quick shout out to Sarah's comment here that maybe if they didn't have so much cast, maybe they could have given each person a little bit more limelight. But you know what, they might be trying to accomplish something, and we'll talk about the sequel and all that kind of stuff later. Stu, was there any other cast member that kind of stood out for you?
No, and thinking about Sarah's comment, I just think it was poor. Like, to Rob, it was a poorly paced movie in terms of what was going on. I get they're doing the introduction of with Lena Headey and with Karen Gillian's character, but Andre said it more and more in time that you can just cut that in a montage scene and be quick. Like, they dragged out a lot of this world building when it comes to the milkshake place and all this stuff that wasn't necessary. You could have gone more in depth to the librarians and not spend all that time like meandering around and doing book puns. It'd be like,
I was like, yo, they got to chill out with these book puns. We get it.
Like, it was John. It was like they just are you uncredited in this movie? Because I feel like these are all the things you basically sent in. I was checking the credits to see John Ho, book title consultant. Like,
no, I don't know that many books, so I wouldn't have been able to pull it off. I would have had to cheat or something. If you were talking about R&B albums or something like that, then I could throw those puns in. But I definitely could not do books.
Here's what's gonna happen. We are gonna do our own John Wick milkshake blah 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 series, and it's gonna be like a music DJ, and we'll have Rob consult on that, and then you and Rob will recommend albums, and in the albums of R&B there'll be weapons inside, and boom, we have our thing. Forget about libraries. It's gonna be like a music rental place where you can
but just accept the Grateful Dead album that will have the acid in it, so you're probably going to want to avoid that one.
Carla Tricino has a special place in my heart. I grew up watching Spin City with her and Michael J. Fox, and she was amazing in that show, and she got fired because Michael J. Fox's wife was like, you have too much chemistry with my husband, you got to go. And they fired her. So I was like, damn. But yeah,
she was in Justified, right?
She was in Justified.
She was Karen Sisco, right?
She was Karen Sisco. Was in a lot in Sin City and a lot of movies she's kind of in, and she's great. They didn't utilize her like Angela Bassett and Michelle Yeoh. Honestly, is better in Star Trek than this. Like, in Star Trek, she is the best as Captain in the Captain. Or
so maybe we're a little some of us may be a little bit sour because they underutilize these people.
But not only that, like, you look at Paul Giamatti, and he must have only been there for like 12 hours because he was so disinterested. Like, you remember
one day
said it's like shooting. I'll say my lines. It's like that scene from The Simpsons. Like, Krusty walks in, let me do this. Hey everyone, and reads the lines really quickly and walks out. And then the guy's like, okay, Krusty, we're ready for you to record. It was basically just walked in, said his lines, filmed it, and he was out the door. So like, everyone there was kind of not utilized properly. It was just kind of again, I don't know. I clearly have to put the blame on the director as to these are the best takes and these are the best things you could do. It was so frustrating.
Again, yeah, this all could be because of the COVID, like the COVID situation. And maybe they had maybe they had a time issue with these actors and actresses. Yeah.
So let me just, I know, John, you've got some questions and stuff, but let me just step in and just say this, is that if you're having a movie like this, I'm going to name off, and people are automatically going to go John Wick, but I'm going to throw in John Wick. You're going to throw in that movie with Jennifer Garner, Peppermint. You're going to throw in Nobody, which we reviewed with Bob Odenkirk.
Atomic Blonde.
But you're going to have these movies of these people who are, these, soul mercenaries who are off on a revenge mission or trying to stay alive. But all of those movies, you have one bad guy. That's your end boss level, and everybody else you're getting through. You're kicking the shit out of these guys just to get to that end boss level, and that's what this movie didn't have. It didn't have an end boss level that kept cutting throughout the movie to build character of who this person was. That she was avoiding the firm, trying to stay alive. And everybody was coming after her to get the money back, and then pissed off because the money got blown apart and this and that. Who's driving the bus behind these guys? And this is what you didn't have. So then her mission, somewhat, you can't relate to it. You can't cheer it on or be like, well, I hope she got the shit kicked out of her, because you don't know who's after her. There's no stakes in the game, so to speak, right?
There was too much, and they had the whole put your guns away when you go to these spots, and then they kind of just blew it all up at the end. And even in John Wick, they just kind of dropped it in there a little bit. It wasn't like a huge focus, right? So yeah, I think they're throwing too many things in the pot, right?
It made no sense, and we didn't even talk about money. It made no sense. This movie cost $30 million. Where the hell did the money go?
Okay, well, let's get into some more the positive. Let's go with let's talk about favorite scenes if you had them, or a favorite part of the movie. And that can include the cinematography, or maybe the cameras, or the design and the lighting, or things like that. Rob, do you have a favorite scene of this movie that you really like and would maybe put on replay?
Yeah, and so I actually feel like when you're watching this movie, I feel like it's two different movies. I feel that whatever happens leading up to the library scene and everything from the library on, and I'm talking about that main fight scene at the library where her mom's with her, it's almost tonally a different movie. It's like it's shot differently. The action scenes are vastly different than they were at the doctor's office and that. So I would say that my favorite scene,
even her character joke, the Karen Gillan's character jokes around a little more in that scene. Out of nowhere, where she's
So I feel that the whole library, that whole scene, or act in the library, by far was my favorite.
Yeah. Okay. So the library scene, which was arguably the biggest kind of fight scene in the whole movie. Stu, is there anything you can pull from this that you're like?
I'm just so angry at so many set decisions and things about this movie. Like, and I guess when you'll ask us about things you disliked, correct? Right?
We've already covered a lot of it, but yeah, I'll give you more time.
Why is Karen Gillan wearing that floppy black hat and trench coat that doesn't fit her body?
Because she's a fan of Carmen Sandiego. Okay.
Yeah, but why is it not fitted? Like, what the hell?
You didn't know where this movie was even shot and takes place. It's because she didn't want you to know, because she's really
off
Carmen
the
Sandiego.
Goddamn rack. Like, come on, man. She would have a tapered. Anyway,
what about this jacket? What about the other Kill Bill-ish jacket that she had on? I actually quite like that.
From the bowling alley.
Yeah.
The scene that was just like the one that I actually, if I had to go back, like the bowling alley scene, I actually like the scene where all the guys were in the car and they start killing each other. It was like, oh yeah, it's like that was some fun. Yeah, with the vampire mask. I'm like, oh, and then the fact that like there's a werewolf, Frankenstein, Dracula, and then when she at the end kills him with the stake, and I was like, bravo, kills the vampire. I'm like, oh, that's neat. Like, this was the perfect, like, I was just waiting for her, the CSI, like, to put the glasses down and do this line and be like something about garlic, or like
some Buffy line,
some sort of like, again, John should have been consulted on like a cheesy dad vampire joke or whatever that was with it. But that honestly was the highlight of the movie.
Suck on that or something like that.
Like, honestly, I'm ready for a Monster Squad where she's one of the kids that grew up, and then this is Monster Squad 2. Like,
I like my steaks raw.
Yeah.
Sorry, John. What was your favorite scene?
My favorite. I do like seeing that red Porsche 944, but your movie's kind of in trouble when your hero car is a Porsche 944, which is kind of like the unloved era of Porsches. But I like the only really thing that pops out in my mind is when the one girl pops out of the top of the truck with a Gatling gun and they play that Janis Joplin track. I forgot how much that song slaps. So I was like, yeah, all right, cool. And then they didn't really have anything else after that. So let's jump to, okay, Stu, do you want to kick off? What was your most ridiculous hated thing of this movie, or something that could be removed and hopefully, bring it up a few notches?
Where to begin?
Like nobody liked the did you like the floppy hand? Some people like that scene as creative.
Was a completely different movie. It was like this is what I expect from honestly an Ernest goes to Assassin's School. Like Ernest P. World, like, hey Vern, and then takes stuff on and like
a weekend at Bernie scene.
Yeah, like honestly, like I've seen enough. Like Ernest Goes to Camp is one of my favorite movies. And honestly, it seemed like a scene from Ernest Goes to Camp. Like there it is.
It's a great movie. The turtles parachute down at the end.
100%. I remember that. But yeah, and then shoots the gun, and then the guy eats the thing and turns into a beautiful. Like again, guys, the people in the chat who haven't seen Ernest Goes to Camp, it's just French Kiss, like just a fantastic movie. This is just it. Like I think to Rob's point, it really didn't know what it was. It pivoted so much back and forth in terms of movies and the theme and so. I would cut out all the funny parts and then turn it. Like again, you could have done more with it and just cut that whole dentist scene out. It was unnecessary and focus on the librarians and maybe do a mythos of like why they're there and like maybe they're demon hunters or something else and they're also they're night walkers or day walkers or something. Like just add something to it to make it more fun.
Build upon the universe.
They did too much.
Right?
Yeah, they did too much in one shot.
Or say that they're retired of the firm. Like these are retired people, and why they aren't like why did they know how to fight? Like why did they know? Like didn't explain anything. It's like you just know you're a librarian, you know how to fight. It's like we were once there and we retired.
And she was operating. Karen Gillan character was operating for so long without the aid of the librarians. So it's kind of like, what the hell? Now you're like, and then and there's so many unanswered questions. I think Rob sent me a whole thing of unanswered questions, but I don't think we have time to get to it because we'll spend like 20 minutes on each one. Rob, did you have something that really stuck out as you were just like, man, if they could get rid of this, then this could work?
No, I'll piggyback what Stu said. The dentist scene. Michael Smiley played the dentist. He's a comedian out of Belfast, and he's an Irish guy, which is fine. Great, nothing shitty in this movie. You know what it reminded me of? He was so over the top. It reminded me of John Glover in Batman and Robin when he was like the mad scientist. When he changes Harley Quinn and he's just like, he's like, oh, we're going to be doing things. Like he was just so. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like. What is the tone of this? What are you doing with this movie? You have this revenge flick. You're making it art house style. You got neon colors popping. You've got your crazy dentist with the giant ceramic tooth and everything else, and the receptionist who doesn't really seem to care what she's reading a book, whatever. But you have this like stupid dentist. I was like, what are you this for? Like, you know what?
Hey Sarah, can you rank that dentist office for us? Like, did you like that dentist office at all?
No, I know Gordon was kind of saying, the whole scene with her with the Novocaine arms, with the knife, the scalpel, and the gun taped was stupid. I think you could have done that really well, at least passable. But when you throw in the stupid Muppet as the dentist, like it was just like I was done with this guy, man. I just wanted him to be killed pretty hard.
And the three lackeys that were fighting her from the bowling alley.
Oh yeah, and they're in crutches and on
and laughing on gas. I'm like, what is happening? Right. This is dumb. It's one of those things where and the more I think about Rob, I don't let them have an excuse of COVID, as in like we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that, because other movies.
No, I didn't say that. Was John saying that.
Nobody. Also was filmed during COVID, but one was filmed in Winnipeg, which somehow looks better and more interesting. And I never thought that I'd be like, oh yeah, Winnipeg looks awesome compared to Berlin. What the F is going on? Where Berlin looks cheap and there's no one there. Like 3 people live in Berlin. In Winnipeg is like huge and a giant like fight sequences with tons of people on a bus and in a warehouse. I'm like, you just could have spent like again, nobody was filmed for $16 million. This movie was filmed for 30. Like it just blows my mind away. Anyway, sorry.
So I saw that. Yeah. So Gordon's asking us to resubmit the ratings because we're giving it so much shit. But I think
you can have fun. Like this is all in good fun. So if you did enjoy this movie, that's amazing. But you could even make fun of a movie that you like as well. But this does give us a lot of ammunition. So I feel like it is still at the 6.
But
I don't know if you guys want to change it.
No. But I have the 6.5 because as much as this stuff, like the dentist scene, irritated me and pissed me off, I still like the idea of it. I like the concept of it. I just wish, like, I really think if you had a different director and even a different writer, he was the guy who wrote both, right? This Navata Pashapuda, whatever. Just Gary. If we had a different guy other than Gary writing and directing this movie, I think it would have been a lot more cohesive and concise. I think it would have done justice to these great actresses. I felt like they were maybe promised one movie and it got delivered something completely different. Yeah. We talked about this a little while ago. There's an article out about, in the last couple of months about, growing up on, the male machismo and all these movies that we've talked about and this and that. And I was really happy to see women kicking the shit out of people and doing it well. And, I have a daughter. I want her to kick shit out of guys if they piss her off. Like, go right ahead. I don't want her like using a gun blade and sticking in the guy's neck. But they were like really good action. Like, I would put some of those action scenes and those deaths up there with some of like the great modern cinematic deaths that you see.
Okay. Quickly to lighten it up. Who got it worse? Who died the worst? Is it forklift guy decapitated?
Oh, that was brutal.
Honestly, here's the thing about, like, if you look at Kill Bill, at least in Kill Bill, there are strong female villains, Rob. You nailed it on the head. At least there were, like, Yo-Yo, the girl, the ball, and then Lucy Liu and Copperhead. Like, there were strong female women. There were just dudes in this movie. All bunch of guys walk in, and they're generic Eastern European dudes that are probably extras from Taken. They're like, here, just shooting guys. I'm like, this is brutal. Yes. Yeah. Gordon, I'll redo it now. You imagine you mean Fraser in a room going, one of us. I'm going to a 4. This movie's just gotten worse.
Okay, now so that it got worse over the course 4. Of us talking about
one of us, 4.
Okay, this is like, there's a good point for us to jump in and go. I believe a sequel has been announced. I don't know if it's been 100% confirmed, but could a sequel, now that they have all these pieces on the board and now they can, maybe spend a little more time on it or something like that, could a sequel potentially be better and actually stick the landing? We like to use that phrase a lot.
Not with this director.
No. Here's the thing. It's like you only get one chance to make a first impression, and this is just completely messed it up. It's like, what's the point of me? Then I'll just skip the next one then, or the first one. Like, don't bother watching Gunpowder Milkshake 1. Just watch the second one because the one adds nothing to it. It's
but you know what though?
Useless.
I still say this though. I say that if you were sitting around and you want a movie that's got some, uneven at times, but some decent action scenes with some really wicked kills, because some of those kills I was like, oh my god, like I like that type of stuff, like these inventive, cool little kills. I thought Michelle Yeoh, the dude with the chain, I thought that was great. There's, I just want to say, it's so stylistically different. It's 2 movies put into one. I really love the second half. You can, I still say it's worth a shot. It's worth, pun intended, worth a shot of your time. It's worth watching. It's got a lot going for it. It just unfortunately is a mess. The first half is a mess.
Yeah, I've seen some people criticize that scene, trying to figure out Michelle Yeoh's weight versus the weight of that bad guy versus the distance.
Well, that's just stupid, though. But see, but guys wouldn't. Yeah, but see, this is the problem. I don't think people would do that with half the John Wick movies that we've seen. The physics in a lot of these John Wick movies don't make sense either, but yet nobody picks on that shit. And yet you have Michelle Yeoh kicking the shit out of some dude and then dropping down with a chain around his neck and he's breaking his neck. And we should be like going, that's a wicked kill. That's awesome. And instead of people are like saying, well,
same thing
doesn't make any sense. That's bullshit. Like, I hate that stuff, man.
Same with Fast and Furious. It's like Dom, I'm like, he just fell off a building several times, just walked it off. Like, not even not even put some tussin on it. Like again, this is all these Fast and Furious movies are just doing its stuff. So yeah, it's all make believe anyways, and carry on. Even Black Widow, she fell off how many things and just walked it off and just like, oh, you just need some Advil at the end of it. Whatever Advil she's taking, I want that too, because playing one game of hockey last night, my joints are falling apart. So I need more drugs.
I saw a photo of you playing hockey and my knees. I was like, my back, everything's sore. I saw a photo of it.
Oh man. Okay, so this cannot be saved by someone mentioned Snyder Cut. I don't think this could be saved by a new director's cut. For us, we like Stu tanked his review. I still stand by it's around a 6 or so, and I think there is a small group of people, or a group of people that might appreciate this a lot more. So I look forward to seeing what they can do with the sequel, because I think all these actresses, and like Rob said, we need some movies with women kicking ass. But I wish, give them more. I want
the library. Listen, if you don't want to bring back Karen Gillan, that's fine. But I want to see the librarians. I want to know what, like. This is obviously not a functional library where kids go in every day to read books, because they'd be picking the wrong books and it'd be really difficult to explain how, the checkout. So I want to know more about them. They kicked ass. At any rate, so that's what it is. I mean, listen, we're not going to change anybody's mind. I think you like honestly, it or you don't.
And yeah, Rob, we've talked before is that there's always been the rumors of an Expendables spin-off, where it's the women Expendabellas or whatnot, and this is an example of things not to do. So let's just hopefully that if that movie ever got lifted off the ground, and we've seen examples of movies that for example Ocean's 11, and then when it went to Ocean's 8, that was a very strong female cast of going a caper, and it worked in some aspects, it didn't work on other ones, but again, I was happy to see that something that existed in at all. So yeah, let's keep on moving it forward and keep on moving the the flag forward. But man, oh man, I'm not looking forward to any more of these movies.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe they'll cut together a nice trailer. But that brings us. We're running out of time, so I do want to quickly bring it up. The whole idea of these direct to stream movies. Do you guys have on deck maybe the one that you think is the best on? It could be a Netflix movie, it could be an Amazon movie.
Well,
I don't know if something like Tomorrow War would count. Tomorrow War.
Yeah, because you have to specify. So, was it made for streaming, or was it a movie? I think we're going to go for made. My original intention was to ask what of the Netflix original movies did you like the most? But if you have something from another company,
the problem is that a lot of these movies were purchased in a fire sale because of COVID when they couldn't release in theaters. Yeah. So Amazon purchased Coming to America 2, Tomorrow War, Without Remorse. Netflix purchased Gunpowder Milkshake. A lot of these movies were supposed to be in theaters, and then they were like, we need to make some money, so we'll just sell them to Netflix, Amazon, or whomever in a fire sale. So we have to remember that. I think if you're looking at specific, the upcoming movie with The Rock, Gal Gadot, and Ryan Reynolds, Red Notice, was made specifically for Netflix. It was a Netflix production. So going based on that, John, and I'm not trying to usurp your question. I think your question, we just have to, it's a difference,
right? To clarify. Yeah.
But I would definitely say, I think, is it Extraction? Is that the one with Chris Hemsworth?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So that for me would probably be my favorite out of these Netflix movies that have been done. And just so you know, The Old Guard is a Netflix movie. Let's not forget, we did review that this time last year. Yeah, but I would say Extraction.
Scott shouts out Old Guard. Fraser shouting out Project Power. Stu, do you have one that is considered your favorite? Is it Always Be My Maybe with Ali Wong and
no? That is up there. That is up there. But it's the movie that Andre hates with a bleeding passion. Six Underground is the movie that is Michael Bay shot, and you see $200 million on that screen. Every time I'm like, my God, I can't travel right now, but I feel like I'm in Italy. Just the panning shots and everything he does. It was a glorified commercial for Italy, and I'm all about that. It was just one of those movies where
I can't get over that movie though. When you have Dave Franco And the beginning, and they're driving, and the hats on, hats off.
That's
Hats on, hats off. That's the movie that I can't.
That's like
it drives me crazy.
intros.
I hate that because it's like, was nobody paying attention when they kept reshooting it that he was wearing his hat and then not wearing it, and yet, like, come on, man. The editing suite, they must have noticed.
Like you can go Kissing Booth. You could go like all the Netflix movies that John you've watched. Whether it's there was a lot of the Noel Centero movies that were out. I think there was like The Perfect Date, that rom-com thing that came out specifically for Netflix.
Yeah. For rom-coms, I think it really works, but for the action movies, I think they quite haven't figured it out. So I think Extraction is one of the ones I still haven't seen. So I'm gonna have to try and watch that.
It is a fantastic movie, and I just had to pick something else besides what Rob said because that movie they clearly filmed not in anywhere here, and when you film in other countries, especially poor-ish countries, my God, you can film and do whatever you want in that country. Because I'm like, when they're doing stuff in India, I was like, geez Louise, like clearly they could do whatever they want, and the government's like, cool, give us $10. Here's an entire city you can blow up. So it's not the same as New York, but it's Extraction is a very well, you can see, the extras and everything in real life, people just blowing things up on a regular basis. It was a couple good fight scenes, couple good gun scenes.
And even Six Underground, I haven't finished it because they keep diverging all over the place when I'm watching it. I'm like, what the hell's going on with the story? Why are you throwing in all this weird backstory? I think if they cleaned it up, I think that could have been Netflix kind of version of Fast and the Furious.
Honestly, once they go to Hong Kong or whatever with the thing back in the magnet, I was like, this is stupid. But I'm just like, man, oh man, is it shot really nice? Like Michael Bay knows how to do commercials. So.
But don't forget, you had Bright as well, right? Bright was a year and a half ago. I mean, that was strictly, David Ayer's Bright for Netflix, and that was, I think
that could have worked. That was another one where they tried to do too much with one thing. They should have focused on one kind of trying to establish the whole universe in one shot. And now I'll
just watch Alienation instead. A much better movie.
The TV show,
or the movie, sure, yeah. James Caan or Mandy Patinkin. That was the
Jimmy Caan. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up. I guess we'll have to do a deeper dive and maybe do a ranking of and clearly define which ones we consider streaming.
Sorry, but you know what, John? Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean Jonathan Yo had an interesting question. He asked. We have a lot of discussion about women in directing and writing movies. Would this movie have been better with a female writer director? It's an interesting question. I will say this: as much as we are not a fan of this director or writer, what he did with it, he also had he wrote it for women to kicking ass as well. So I don't think we can take that away from him. Like he could have easily have been like, a couple of guys, and then the Karen Gillan as the token female member of the squad, and he didn't. He made it all female. So we don't take that away from him. I don't know if it would have been a better movie because there was no perspective. So I think to quickly answer Jonathan, there was no perspective that he was writing to say, oh, I understand from a female perspective. He was just writing an action movie. So had there been a specific female perspective, then I would say, obviously, yes, a woman's going to be much better at capturing that. But
yeah, Gordon mentions Triple Frontier, and that I forgot about that movie. Now that I mentioned, I'm like, oh yeah, Triple Frontier, Ben Affleck, The Mandalorian.
Oh no, that was horrible.
Is that Triple? That's where they're the army guys that pull the heist.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden
they end up, they go on an adventure together.
It started off all right. I just want to answer Eric quickly. I actually like Aiko a little better, even though Tony Jaa really did some crazy stuff. But yeah, so Triple Frontier, I don't know if I would consider
and to Rob's point, I think that any capable director would have fixed this movie. I think it wasn't just, it would have been male or female, because if you look at it, and John, I think you could talk to this a little bit more. You look at John Wick and you look at the really successful martial arts or films that are directed by were former stunt coordinators or people that have that lens for martial arts. And I think that's what was missing. They needed, if this was going to be one of those movies, they had to basically pick a director that comes from that background. That's a director of the second unit who did choreography, who did fighting, because that's what they know what to look for. not the guy that did Mortal Kombat. But,
there's a couple like even Hong Kong directors that come to mind that probably could have done the action with this kind of funky neon lighting they had going. SPL with Donnie Yen comes to mind, and Sammo Hung. They had a really good fight. If you looked at Donnie Young versus Wu Jing, I think has a similar feel to probably what this movie was going for. Shout outs to I don't know if there was a Punisher movie with Ray Stevenson.
Yes.
And it visually looks actually similar to this. Yeah, and it was a female director.
Yes.
And I actually feel like she got kind of like undercut because
she got shortchanged. Yeah, but it was a good movie. Yeah,
but visually and action wise, it worked. So like someone like her maybe doing this, maybe it could have, maybe it could have worked.
Alexi Alexander. That was much more closer to a Punisher movie than the one that we got, the first one.
Like
Thomas.
The guy that did John Wick, he was a second unit director for Civil War, Birds of Prey, directed John Wick 1, 2, 3, 4, stunt work in a ton of movies, The Matrix, Wild Wild West, The Replacements, Matrix movies, Spider-Man.
Yeah, I feel like they just tried to accomplish too much. They probably should have stuck to one thing or the other. They should have done martial arts or done gunfighting and kind of like really made sure they nailed that, especially since they, I don't know Karen Gillan's background, but like you said, I don't believe she is trained. Unless your star was already trained, then that's when you start like, throwing everything at them. Throwing everything at her maybe was just too much.
But here's the thing. If she has a dance background, you can get away with a lot. But again, if you're not classically trained in terms of like a stunt choreographer, you're not going to be able to tell her. And even, for example, COVID, like maybe you're right. Like maybe they were restricted. But if you were a stunt person, you'd be like, I want to see this, this, and this, and you can do double duty based on restrictions. But
it's all a matter of the fight choreographer, the choreography, and the stunt coordinator, and the fight choreographer. Keanu Reeves wasn't a martial artist before he did The Matrix, and you watch that, and you're like, holy shit! They put in the work. They had the time given to them, to the allotted time to work and do stuff. You know who wasn't a trained fighter was that idiot who in Iron Fist. He had no time to prepare. Finn Jones. He had no time to prepare before they started filming, and you could tell this is kind of somewhat similar in part of this movie. So I put that squarely on the shoulders of the director and of the studio not hiring the proper people, because you can have, somebody with 2 left feet. They could look like they do a great job in martial arts if they're given the right time to train, have the right support to make them look good. And if you're not having the support to make them look good, then that's not the actor's fault.
Yeah.
It's a shame because there's a lot of opportunity with this movie, and man, oh man, they swung and whiffed so badly, and to the point, the fighting, like all the stuff was just they had to pick a lane, and I don't know if they knew what they were doing, and clearly they did not. But it's received well enough because Netflix will never tell us the numbers either. So this is kind of the nice thing about Netflix, is that they can hide the fact that who's watching it, who's looking at it, and how long people are actually watching this thing either. Right. And then, 30 million is nothing to continue this thing. But I think last thing before we go, John, is like, I think we constantly talk about John Wick, and let's just say this once and for all. Don't ever compare anything to John Wick, because Keanu Reeves is an animal in terms of the fact that he'll work for scale. You cannot. Keanu is one of the nicest human beings on the planet. Goes out saying he's given money away from The Matrix, $75 million of net to people on set, to his staff members, to stuff. There's lots of times where he took less money for movies, so he could hire Gene Hackman in The Replacements, or hire or bring Robert
Replacements. So good.
Who's Al Pacino in The Devil's Advocate? Like he is willing to work for nothing because he doesn't care about money. So like that's when people are like, well, John Wick was like 20 million. He probably worked for credit scale, and as a producer, like as an actor, worked for nothing.
And he probably paid for all that training himself.
He probably did everything on his own.
He probably went to everyone. The Tactic Arms, or whatever that place was called.
Like everyone who's an actor in this movie, from we love, from everything, from all the other actors in it, probably got paid more than Keanu Reeves, and it's unfair to constantly say, well, it's not John Wick. I didn't even bring it up. That's why I brought up Nobody. It's like that's the most comparable Bob Odenkirk, and that movie kicks this movies in the face. So I think we need to just.
Like most of the comparisons come from that they are basically taking John Wick meets Kill Bill meets whatever, all the things that we're throwing in there before before World, which is fine, you know, imitate something that worked and just, I guess, figure out how to Terran Tactical. Sorry. I saw Gordon corrected me here, but
yeah, like, and I think we all agree that all of us would leave our significant others to just hang out with Keanu Reeves on a regular basis. So it goes without saying, Sarah and everyone else, that yes, he's a beautiful human being, and all of us would be like, yeah, we'll hang out with you, whatever you want. We'll ride motorcycles in San Diego all day long. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Anyways, I just had to get that out because I think that it's the elephant in the room. I was like comparing it to John Wick, and
it's a tired trope. Everything gets just like movies from 1999 onwards were compared to The Matrix, right? With the special effects and the way that the bullet time and everything else. And then it became everything's being compared to John Wick. Like, it helped change a little bit of cinema and the fight scenes, but something else will come up. And then, some other movie will come out in the next few years and everybody's gonna be like, oh, comparing it to that movie. Like it's natural for us to do that. But before John Wick, we had Taken. And this is kind of like this, there's a lot of these movies are peppered into this.
And Liam Neeson went on a tear.
Yeah, and I think that we talked to, and Bill Simmons mentioned too, it's like, who has the championship belt for action films? And it's Keanu. Keanu will continue to have it until someone knocks it off him. You talk about The Rock. The Rock is not the best champion when it comes to action films. It's still Keanu. And you can maybe name each year that someone who's held the belt. And there was that time when it was Liam Neeson for Taken 2 and all that stuff. But now it's back to Keanu with John Wick. Like, everything was back to him all over again. So I think there'll be one day where we can do a whole who has the belt for action movie stars. And it's basically, you'd be surprised how many years Keanu Reeves is just holding up that championship belt.
I think Tom Cruise should be in the running for sure. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion.
Honestly, I think you'd be surprised if you went by year and like who has the belt. It's not as clear.
But what he's brought to the table. But that's a whole nother episode. So let's wrap up this episode and maybe we'll talk about Tom Cruise very, very soon.
Tom Cruise has nothing to do.
But Top Gun, Mission Impossible, all kinds of things are coming out, and we still have like James Bond and all that kind of stuff. So thank you everybody so much for joining us. Any closing thoughts? I know Stu, you got a lot out there. Rob, did you have anything else you want to just wrap?
No. Netflix? I think So no, definitely check out our Loki episode 6 and then season review that we did yesterday. It's out on the YouTube channel. Big shout out to John and Andre. This Sunday. They have a massive shindig happening. I know that you guys were looking for Stu and I to be there to sign autographs. I don't think we're gonna, I don't know if I'm comfortable doing that. I know Stu is, but
we'll get some of the other crew. Yeah, look for Andre to drop more details on that.
Honestly, I don't think you guys understand what's on Rob's rider. Like the demands he's making to show up.
I only want green Smarties.
It's so unbecoming that I looked at the writer. I'm like, John, I don't think we can accommodate his needs. Yeah. He needs a trailer that's painted fluorescent green. Inside has to be purple. With
the lights behind him. He's rocking the orange today. He wants it to be changed colors every time.
Very weird. But we'll go into Rob's weird rider another day. Because, that's it.
Yeah. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. Next week, Rob is off. We wish him well. He's got some personal matters to attend to. We fired you for a week. We fired you for a week. So next week,
suspended. Let's say suspended for a week.
Yeah. Rob's on a 1 week suspension, so we wish you well, Rob, and then we're gonna carry on in your spirit. And we've got a very special episode coming up for you. We are going to be tackling Mean Girls, the Lindsay Lohan 2004 movie. And
I saw the tweet. Did you see that picture that she posted the other day?
No, I didn't. So I'm gonna have to look that up. But because we always, you saw in the chat, everyone was mentioning Fetch and all that kind of stuff. So we've got a very special guest host since Rob's missing in action. We're gonna have Sarah in with us, talking Mean Girls. Stu, I don't know if you want to come on for Mean Girls or we'll try and find out.
That sounds a lot worse than you probably made it to.
Okay, so the thing is, Amanda Siegfried posted a picture of them on set, like a picture of them back at that time period, and everyone, including Lindsay Lohan, commented. So I think you'll start off with that one. It's a good picture.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
we'll have a lot to talk about. So next week, Mean Girls. It is available on Netflix in Canada right now. So watch it, enjoy it, take lots of notes. We're gonna have some fun with this particular movie and where it stands in the teen. Sorry, I still got this thing on my I don't even know how to get rid of it. Whatever. We'll just finish the show like this.
There you go.
So we've got a lot of
Yeah.
things in where this
Yeah.
teen comedy fits in the whole echelon. Was it the last good teen comedy? I think there's a couple after it. But Mean Girls, Lindsay Lohan, all kinds of craziness going on. Tim Meadows, shout outs to Tim Meadows in this movie as well.
Rachel McAdams.
Yeah, Rachel. Yeah, it goes on and on. Tina Fey, like everybody. So, anyways,
All right. Well,
Thank you very much.
Enjoy next week.
yeah. Rob didn't want
super hype for Mean Girls.
Rob
Always
didn't
on board.
want any part of this. So,
No.
Missing out. Don't worry,
All right.
Rob. Your daughter and you can watch it eventually. She'll get there.
Yeah.
Yep. Great.
You're gonna watch Gunpowder Milkshake instead.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mean Girls grew up and became the librarians.
as punishment. As punishment. Rob is like, you didn't do your homework? It's time for you to watch Gunpowder Milkshake. This is your punishment. Like, no, Daddy, no. Okay.
all right, cool. So, thank you very much, everyone. Join us for Mean Girls next week, and Rob will be back the following week. So, don't send us all your mail going, where did Rob go? Don't worry, he's going to be right back. He's got a mission to take care of. He's like, I'm out. I'm done.
He's
Thank
gonna
you
go,
very much.
F you,
Thank you, Stu.
F you, you're cool. I'm out. If those who haven't seen it, Half Baked, good movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, Dave Chappelle. All right, let's. Thank you very much, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.